Dajahao, my name is Garrick, and welcome back to Taiwan Lao Wai. So it is time once again to continue our Mission Michelin, our mission to eat at every Michelin recommended restaurant in the city of Taipei. And oh boy, we've got an exciting one tonight. Yes, we are returning to the domain of the One Michelin Star restaurants. These may be the lowest rank of stars, but as we have learned from experience, that does not stop them from being an incredible, once-in-a-lifetime kind of meal. And our restaurant for tonight is Impromptu by Paul Lee. Situated right in the heart of Taipei, this is what most of you probably imagine when the idea of a Michelin restaurant comes to mind. Classically trained French chef, 10-course tasting menu incorporating French and American flavors, as well as a lot of local things from Taiwan and surrounding Asia. Michelin was originally a French company, and their first editions of the Michelin Guide really focused on French restaurants and, I guess surrounding European countries as well. So while we've had wonderful times with Sushi Nomura and Zia and all of the Michelin bib places we visited as well, this will be the first time we're getting a little taste of, I guess, the original recipe Michelin recommendation system. I don't know, it's probably not as big a deal as I'm making it out to be, but I think it's gonna be fun. So, Impromptu is actually situated inside a hotel. It is on the first floor of the Regent Taipei, which, to the best of my knowledge, is one of the fanciest hotels in Taipei. I don't know the precise cost or accommodations, but everything I've seen about it seems to suggest this is like luxury of luxury if you want to stay in Taipei and live like a king. Luckily, we do not need to stay over at the Regent, we just need to eat at the restaurant. Man, I always find it super interesting whenever I see graffiti in Taipei. I don't know, it always seems to pop up a little out of nowhere. I never expect it, but it's always a nice bit of flavor. Now we're actually going to be pretty early for our reservation. Our reservation is at 6 o'clock, which is the earliest the restaurant opens, and we're probably going to reach the Regent by no later than 5:30. Luckily, that should give us plenty of time to bask in the AC inside the hotel and get acquainted with the general area. I don't know if they'll let me explore inside the Regent, but if I have enough time to do that, I would like to walk around and see what all the fuss is about. Also, before I forget, quick word on price. The basic set menu is just about 4,000 NTD on its own, and that's not counting like any alcohol pairings or the service charge that comes in at the end. So we'll see how big the bill actually is when all is said and done. I'm probably gonna go for the cocktail pairing that they mentioned they have on their website, because I always find I enjoy cocktails more than just straight alcohol. This is gonna be fun. I'm very excited. Alright, I will make my way to the Regent. See ya there. Okay, eyes up, folks. We have reached the Regent Taipei. Look at this thing. Admittedly, it's not quite as big as I imagined it would be. I was sort of picturing like a big skyscraper-sized tower with like tons of rooms and stuff. But maybe that's just mistaken on my part. It's actually kind of funny. It's sort of tucked away down one of the side streets, not on one of the main roads. Oh, wait. Hang on. It extends down quite a way. All right. This place might be bigger than I initially thought. It goes long ways down that way. So clearly there are a lot of different shops, a lot of different points of entry, but we are gonna head in the front doors because I think that will get us closest to the restaurant. It's quite an impressive approach, I must say. Really makes you feel like you're storming the gates of a castle or something. Okay, this is all very luxurious. Not gonna lie, it's a little intimidating being surrounded by all this rich people excess. Like, there's attendants everywhere, there's a piano in the middle of that restaurant downstairs, there's like gold plating, or at least glittery plating on everything. It feels like common people are just not supposed to be in here, you know? I'll get used to it. I've got like 30 minutes still until my reservation, so I will adjust. Speaking of, we still need to find Impromptu, which I have not done yet, so bear with me as I pop around a bit. I think it's supposed to be on the first floor? Okay, so I don't know if those buffets are only for hotel guests or if they're open to the public as well. And I'll have to do some research and see if I can come back here for dinner another night because, my god, my mouth is watering already. Anyways, we have finally made our way down to floor B1, which I have been told by signage is where Impromptu is supposed to be. Gotta say, it's a good thing we came as early as we did. I get a chance to really drink in the sights as I make my way toward where I'm supposed to go. We've still got like 20 minutes until my reservation. I'm sure we can find the restaurant by then, right? Right? Oh ho, okay, here's a sign, and I am on the completely wrong side of the floor. Okay, so that's Impromptu up there on whatever that side of the building is. I'm down here, so I need to walk my tight little ass all the way up there. Okay. I was not expecting a walking workout today on top of a Michelin dinner, but you get what you pay for in Taiwan, I suppose. Alright, so if you are looking to come to Impromptu, and if you take this main stairway down from the upper floors and get down here, you see this flower bowl? You want to turn right. You want to go all the way to the end of this hallway. There are quite a few basement floors. I think there are more shops and restaurants further down. Don't think any of those are Michelin as well, though, so... Oh ho ho, I see a big P at the end of this hallway. That's where we're going. Alright, we have made it at last. Welcome to Impromptu by Paul Lee. Or at least the outside, because the restaurant is still not open yet. You can catch a little of the chefs setting up inside. This is going to be a very exciting dinner. Alright, as before, I probably will not be able to film any voiced videos in the restaurant, so I will capture my little clips and fill you in on the experience once I am done. It is going to be very fun. See you inside.
Many hours later.
Wow, I am stuffed. Shockingly, I'm not like stuffed to bursting like I have been at Michelin restaurants past. I'm like at a very pleasantly full state, which is the ideal state to be after one of these meals, I think. So I'm gonna come out and say it, I think this was the best Michelin restaurant I've eaten at so far. I'll talk about it more in the morning once I have recovered from this delicious time. But suffice to say, I am extremely satisfied with how this evening has turned out. Okay, that's all for now. I'm gonna get back home and crash. See you in the morning.
One day later.
Woo-wee! What a meal that was. Alright, so we've made it to the next morning in one piece. I am off to grab some lunch, and as I wander over, why don't I talk a bit about my experience at Impromptu? First thing I want to say is I really love the design of this restaurant. It's a very cozy little place. There's like maybe a 10-person bar and a few tables on the side, but it feels very active without being claustrophobic. Like, it has a very good sense of energy and enthusiasm throughout the meal. And of course, I love how much of the kitchen is, just right there behind the bar. There's some stuff they prepare in the back, but for the most part, you are watching them prepare the food, cook the food, and plate the food right before your very eyes. And it's a really exciting experience when you've got like 4 chefs at a time going down a line of plates, each one adding some new element to the dish. Like, you got the first chef coming in adding mushrooms, and then behind them you've got another chef adding some peas, and then the third chef behind is putting a few like edible flowers in or something. It's just a very, very cool process, no matter how many times I see it. I also want to say up front that the service was spectacular, which, every Michelin star restaurant has great service. It's pretty much impossible to get a star if you don't. But even by those high standards, this was like a cut above. They pull out and push in your chair when you sit down. They give you new silverware for basically every course. They're very attentive, they're very on top of things. Every time my water glass got so much as less than 60% full, they were back to put a little more in it. I guess maybe that's sort of what I meant by like the classic Michelin experience. It's that kind of extremely elevated fine dining, waiting on your every need kind of service. It's definitely more a feature of, the old French restaurants that I guess popularized that style of fine dining that the Michelin originally sprang from. The point is, I liked it. It made me feel like a prince a little bit. In terms of drinks, I went for the cocktail pairing, like I said, and that turned out to be a fantastic choice. It was basically one little sip after another all throughout the night. I think it was like 8 different cocktails all together, and each of them were sort of unique and tasty and interesting in their own right. In my mind, that's like the perfect way to experience alcohol with a fancy meal. Just like countless little sips of something tasty and mixed. Seriously, more Michelin restaurants should get on that grind. I am shocked that the other places I've been to didn't have that option. It seems like such an obvious choice. That's probably a big part of why I loved the meal so much. Things like that can really elevate the experience. But of course, what really elevated the meal was the meal itself, which was spectacular! Something I've noticed with the other Michelin star restaurants I've gone to is that they start out good, but they don't really get great until like a third of the way through the meal. Like with both Zia and Nomura Sushi, it took a few courses for things, I think, to really get going, and to really get me in that bliss state of, oh my god, how is this also freaking delicious? That is not what happened at Impromptu. It started high and it stayed high all the way through. Every Michelin place I've been to has been great, but this, I think, was the most consistently excellent eating experience I've had so far. And I will tell you about that meal in a second, but first I need to get some lunch, so see you in a bit.
5 minutes later.
And I am stuffed again. There's a really nice Thai restaurant, like a 7-minute walk from my apartment. I really need to go there more often. That's enough about what I'm eating today. Let's talk about what I ate last night. First course was a cold noodle dish in a mushroom consomme with some seaweed and wasabi for a little extra kick. This was a very tasty little first bite. The noodles almost felt jellied by the consomme around them. I don't know, it was this interesting wiggly texture with this very intense umami mushroom flavor. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then you've got the kick from the wasabi, which, gives things a little punch to wake it up. Overall, very good start. Second course was an appetizer trio, 3 different little bites on the same plate. First was a bit of hamachi sashimi with some pickled cucumber and dill. Next was a langoustine tart with kaffir lime, lemongrass, and a little spherical mango gelée. And lastly, a little choux puff pumped full of foie gras and topped with a bit of pineapple jam. All of these bites were delicious. I think the hamachi and pickled cucumber was my favorite. It just had this wonderful funkiness from, I guess, the mix of the cucumber and the dill. It complemented the fish really well. What struck me most about this course, though, was how floral and herbaceous everything tasted. Like, more than the various proteins involved, the prominent flavor I was getting came from the different herbs and plant materials that were used in the creation of those dishes. It felt like I was eating a garden, in a good way. So that's 2 strong courses back to back, but the third course, whew, that's when the magic really started to happen. This was the bread course, and they served me the most decadent focaccia I have ever eaten in my life. Salty, savory, garlicky, studded with tomatoes. But what really put it over the top is they topped it with tiny little sakura shrimp. Sakura shrimp are like the smallest kind of shrimp. They're so tiny, you can fit like 2 of them on the tip of this finger. That's how small they are. And they gave the focaccia this extra pop of briny saltiness every time my teeth sank into one of them. Just incredibly decadent stuff, and I wish they had served me a full loaf instead of just a half, because it was gone way too quickly. It would have helped me use up the olive oil and balsamic vinegar they gave me, so that would have been nice. Like, even this stuff was really good. The olive oil, they said, was mixed with a little champagne, and the balsamic vinegar had been aged for like some absurd number of years. Like, the focaccia on its own was enough of a flavor explosion, but dip it in that nonsense and boom, baby. I wish some Michelin restaurants had like a side store where they sold some of their products to the general populace, and you could like go down and buy a couple loaves of this focaccia for like, I don't know, 15 bucks a pop or something. I feel like that would do gangbusters business. Get on that, chefs, you don't know what you're missing. Alright, we're almost back at my apartment. I'll see you inside super quick. Okay, we are back in the apartment, and it is still really freaking hot. I swear, I will never get used to Taiwan summers. We have got to stop global warming for no other reason than I do not want to become even more uncomfortable here during the summer. Anyways, where were we? 4th course. And honestly, I don't think I could describe this one for you if I tried, so I'm gonna let the chef handle it.
It's all about tomatoes, egg waste, and we have as well here tomato juice along with tomato oil and basil oil. And inside we have king crab, seaweed, and caviar.
Wow.
And what I have here for you is tomato sauce with horseradish.
Wow.
Enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Pretty nuts, huh? I was just sort of in awe the whole time I was eating this dish. The tomato was so sweet, the crab was so succulent. There were pops from the caviar, there was acid from the broth, there were little sudden sparks of cold from that, like, tomato snow or whatever. I just had to dig and dig and dig and eat and eat and eat. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've eaten anything that used liquid nitrogen, so that was pretty fun. I really appreciate the showmanship of it, just to like cloud the bowl in super cold smoke for a couple seconds. Just great stuff all around, worth the price of admission all on its own. The next course brought us back to that feeling of eating in a garden. It was this very luscious, but very clear and refreshing sort of seafood broth. The broth itself was made with oolong tea and daikon radish. Inside the bowl there was some cuttlefish, some smoked clams, green peas. A little extra surprise, there was a whole poached quail egg in there, just this little one-bite pop of yolky goodness. And then there is a bit of black rice at the bottom of the bowl, to, I guess, help soak up all the excess liquids and be this sort of earthy underpinning to the much lighter flavors on top. Once again, the flavors and the essence of the plants were what came through the strongest here. The fish and the eggs and the rice were more of an accompaniment to those very herbal, floral flavors up top. And I gotta say, this restaurant really does make the garden taste freaking delicious. I remember this dish being very tang-forward. It had that sort of prickling in the front of my mouth. It felt very unique. It's a kind of dish that I don't think I've ever really had before, and I would be more than happy to try it again. Next up was course number 6, which was the big fish course, in this case, a goatfish. I have never seen a goatfish in my life. I have no idea what it looks like. I'll probably put something up that I looked up on Google right here. But this was presented in a very interesting way. The fish itself was topped with a wonton skin that was like peppered with herbs and stuff. It wasn't like a fish dumpling, it was just the skin itself laid on top of this little piece of goatfish. And then of all things, there was some chorizo sort of mixed in as a layer in between the wonton skin and the goatfish itself, so it was that little pop of Latin spice in there too. And those Latin flavors go double for the broth that surrounded it, which was a A mix of bell pepper and saffron, if I remember correctly. I guess romesco would be the best way to put it, and it was so punchy with flavor. Like, my god. I want to apologize to all the bell peppers in the past I've never really liked. This just redeemed the entire, I guess, fruit for me. But as strong as it was, it contrasted really well with the sort of meaty fish and the tuggy, tender wonton skin and that pop from the chorizo as well. It was just an explosion of flavor from top to bottom. I could not get enough. The next dish was probably the least interesting dish of the night, but that was through no fault of its own. It's just because I'm not the biggest fan of the flavors it was playing with. This was the abalone dish, and abalone, if you don't know, is a mollusk, similar to a clam or a mussel, but it's quite big and it's quite sought after, especially in Asian countries. I've noticed it tends to be a luxury item on a lot of fancy Taiwanese restaurants. Whenever I'm looking at, like, the most expensive and sort of fine dining places in Taiwan, to a T, the most expensive items they have are the ones with abalone. And honestly, I'm just not that into it. I find it's kind of bland a lot of the time. Regardless, this dish was abalone mixed with mushroom in a broth based on soy milk, of all things, which was very interesting. If I remember correctly, it was soy mixed with miso mixed with dashi, but definitely soy milk was the predominant flavor I took. There was a little bit of pickled bamboo in the broth as well, some clams, and the most interesting thing was a little piece of watercress tempura sitting at the top of the bowl. That was definitely the most interesting part of the dish for me. I love tempura, but I've never eaten watercress at all, let alone in this style, so it was a very fascinating little bite. Overall, a good dish, just not my absolute favorite of the night. Now, it's at this point, the waitstaff recommended I take a break and mosey my way to the bathroom as they prepared the main course, which I was very thankful for because I was like 6 cocktails in at this point, and I needed to pee. I'm curious if that's a recommendation they make for all guests, or if they somehow noticed or just predicted that I specifically needed to use the bathroom at that point. Either way, it was a very clever little touch because it gives you a chance to sort of refresh and recharge your energy from the marathon eating you've just been through as you head into the final stretch. And it gives them more time to prepare their final course without you spending the whole time waiting and wondering, what's taking so long? So once again, impeccable service. I tip my hat to you all. And that's to say nothing of the main course itself, which was delicious. Course number 8 was ember roasted suckling pig from the Yundong province of Taiwan. It was prepared 3 ways, one with the rib, one with the tenderloin, and one with the leg meat. And what was very exciting was they prepared a little side dish tableside of sticky rice. Like, they literally brought out the rice still wrapped in its bamboo leaf in the clay pot with all the accompaniments, and then they mixed it all up in the bowl right in front of me before plating it alongside the pork. And it was darn good sticky rice. There were green onions, fried onions, there was a little bit of ham in there, and all of this served with a delicious mustard sauce and a little bit of apple and shiso puree on the side. I am so grateful I wasn't full to bursting at this point because this whole plate was just heaven. Savory, sweet, salty, sticky, tender. All the best adjectives you can use to describe food were on this plate. My favorite of the pork was probably the leg meat. It was the most tender and it's sort of shredded in your mouth. But again, this is a dish I would come back to just to have like a full-sized plate of that kind of pork. It was that good. Now, after this, they offered a little extra add-on of a cheese course, which of course I accepted because I love cheese more than life itself. Sadly, it was only like 2 pieces of cheese with a little quince jam and some, I think, pineapple chutney, some apricots, and some walnuts. I tell you, really good cheese is hard to find in Taiwan. I'm super lucky. I live right next to a supermarket that regularly stocks delicious little circles of brie, but anything more exotic than that is hard to come by. Luckily, it was only like an extra $2.50 NTD add-on, so for that little price, I definitely say it was worth it, because it's still cheese, you know? And with that out of the way, it was time for a quick succession of desserts. First, a little palate cleanser in the form of some shaved ice with green mango, verbena, and calamansi. Green mango is a bit more sour than the more ripe yellow mango, but it came through very sweet with the ice and the other flavors, so this really was just a really great refresher. But then came the most show-offy dessert of the night, and my god, what a presentation this was. The mango sugar ball, a little spherical sugar ball spun entirely out of sugar infused with mango flavor, and it encased tons of different little bites and little treasures. Mango mousse, Sichuan pepper, grapefruit, coconut, and this sauce that they poured over the whole thing after I cracked the sphere with my spoon. Sugar, sugar, sugar on top of wow, what am I even eating? Listen, if you're a Michelin restaurant, it pays to go show-offy in little ways like that, and I appreciated the theatrics of it all. It was just a constantly surprising dessert. I was finding new flavors with every bite, and all of it was delicious. Plus, you know, the artistry of making an entire sphere out of spun flavored sugar is just incredible stuff. Last but not least, a little trio of aperitifs to finish us off. There was some watermelon ice cream, which, a clever little twist, was pumped into a little hollowed out piece of watermelon, so it ate like an ice cream sandwich, but with compressed watermelon as the sandwich cookies for the watermelon ice cream in the middle. Then there was a little mint chocolate flavored shoe puff, shaped and styled like a swan, and some white Michaela tea to help wash it all down. All told, I spent about 2 hours and 40 minutes from start to finish eating there, from the second I came into the restaurant and the second I left. And all of those seconds were very well spent. From start to finish, this meal was exciting, it was delicious, it was fresh, and it kept hitting me in ways that I did not expect, and in ways that I've never really tasted before. Like, there were a lot of dishes on this menu where I just straight up said, I have never tasted anything quite like this before. I'm experiencing something new right now. That is the joy of Impromptu. It's coming in and getting not just a great dinner, not just an excellent dinner, but a new experience kind of dinner. And that's ultimately the reason that it's my favorite Michelin meal so far. Because as fantastic as the other places I've been to were, none of them really sort of expanded my horizons on what food can be the way this did. And as for the price, the cost of the set menu paired with the cocktail pairing, paired with the little extra cheese plate they threw in there, paired with the service charge, altogether it comes out to 6,809 NTD, which is this much in US dollars. It is definitely over 200, I know that much. So it's definitely pricey, and you can go pricier if you want a more straight alcohol pairing or like a champagne pairing, which was I think the same cost as the set menu itself, which is just ridiculous to me. But considering how spectacular the food was and how excellent the cocktails were paired with that, I think I got the best value for my money here. Bottom line, this place rules. Visit it if you are in the area and in the mood to splurge. And give yourself time to explore the hotel as well, because you're gonna need a little bit of time to find your way to the place, and you're gonna want to spend some time taking in all the sights of the various lobbies and floors like I did. Great stuff, Paul Lee. I salute you. What am I doing with my hands? I don't know. With all that said, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my weekend, and I will see you next time on our next Mission Michelin, or our next outing, or our next whatever the case may be. As always, thank you for joining me at Taiwan Lao Wai. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, smash the bell, share with your friends, all that good stuff. And I will see you next time. 再见. Bye bye.